Are you a part of it? What? Are you a part of it? I saw. You a part of it? I'm just going to the grocery store. No, that's not what I said. I saw Sam Witwer tweet out, "Are you a part of it?" And then people were like, "Wait, was Sam that?" But I looked in the credits and he was not listed. I don't think so. So everyone assumes, was that him? And then I'm thinking, how with all these different creators does Sam end up in each one when it's a different person running every show? They're like, "Wait, we need a random person to say a line. Sam, we need you."
Anyway, welcome.
Oh, we're on.
To Star Wars, guys.
I'm Mike.
Hey,
You know him well. Although, you know him unwell? He's just not feeling well tonight. Under the weather. I prefer being on top of the weather. I call it Favreau because he has Iron Man flies above the clouds. You got the Mandalorians flying above the clouds. That's just how we do it. Yeah. Well, welcome back to the Star Wars Guys podcast. We are excited to talk about episode 7 of Andor. Announcement. We're not making an announcement. That is the name of the episode. Yeah, that's the name of the episode. But we're going to get right into it tonight. Oh. Let's get right into it. Overall thoughts?
We'll start with overall thoughts. I just want to say, episode 6, I think.
Oh, gosh. Where's he going with this?
Episode 7, I was just going to say, very different.
Very different. Not a big battle episode action, which we didn't expect.
No.
But it's the fallout. The fallout of the big battle that happened, the heist, the big robbery of what happened on Aldani. And now everybody is, an announcement. It's not, it wasn't just a, it was an announcement. Meaning, I love what Deidre, the blonde ISB, one of my favorite characters. And I like that she is like, no, I don't think this was a small thing, or I don't think this is a heist. Like it was just a hit of this. It was an announcement. They were trying to send a message that they are here. The Imperial officer is talking about what happened, which is why the episode's called announcement. It's titled announcement. She's the one who said, I think it was an announcement. Yeah, and I love it. Overall thoughts, though. Overall thoughts? Whoa. I will say this show. So overall thoughts. I love this episode. It is what I thought we would get in this show, except even better. I did expect, just because we know kind of the 3-episode story arc style of storytelling that they're telling in this show, we expected the last episode was going to be the big event, the big everything going on with the eye, and then obviously the big heist, the big episode on Aldani. But then the aftermath of a big event like that is always, to me, some of the most interesting stuff. Like, I know some of my favorite books that I've read, Star Wars books, take place in between some of the biggest movies that we've seen. So a lot of, like, Lost Stars is one of them. And a lot of it's in between. Turns out that the galaxy does not just cease after the Death Star blows up. It's what's the aftermath of that? How does that have repercussions for the rebellion? How does that have repercussions for the Empire? How do they respond? How do they retaliate? How in this? I'm loving it. Yeah, love the episode. But so it is. This is the most. Well, I think there's a lot of quotable Star Wars shows that we've gotten. Mando has, this is the way. There's a lot of stuff. I mean, there's a lot in Obi-Wan, which is why Obi-Wan is, I just loved Obi-Wan Kenobi. There's so many important Anakin / Vader, and Yeah, but as far as just even the dialogue itself, the Obi-Wan, the Obi-Wan Vader scenes have a ton of great dialogue.
Mic has literally, I think, been off the whole time. We're on.
Did someone say that you were off?
Yeah.
Am I on?
Oh yeah, he's on.
This would be. I can't
I
wait
checked
to
if
see.
yours was on. And I
What's
didn't
great
check
is
what
I
mine
can't
is.
wait to hear this episode of how I'm talking and
We're gonna hear it
responding
back.
to no
Everyone's
one.
gonna cut to this point and be like, "What the heck is going on?"
Responding to no one.
I
And
love it.
I'm just like, yeah.
So
Yeah.
to reiterate,
Wait.
real quick.
Oh, wait. Let me finish my point.
All right, we'll let him finish.
Obi-Wan
We'll let him finish.
and Anakin
Good looks, chat.
have great dialogue back and forth. That's some of my favorite Star Wars emotional storytelling with the dialogue. There's also Obi-Wan and young Princess Leia and Bail Organa. All that to say, there's a ton of great dialogue in Obi-Wan and in the other shows as well. I think this is the best written dialogue of any Star Wars show we've gotten, as far as meaning I am as on edge and on the edge of my seat, tense with every little bit of dialogue as I am the action, if not even more. Meaning I've seen great action. I've seen it done very well. But I don't know if I've ever seen this level of dialogue, storytelling, taking its time, confidently not rushing through things, but confidently going at their methodical pace, while every single bit of dialogue I'm listening to, I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't want this scene to end.
Every single line.
One of my
seems
favorite
very
scenes
important.
of any Star Wars show so far is probably the Marva and Cassian
Their
conversation in this. And it was this, and every single thing. I'm like, that was so well written. Wow, that's an interesting response. That was well written. That was well written. Wow, this is not going maybe the way you think. And then, I just love it.
Yeah.
I love the dialogue so much.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the strongest things about the show.
I agree. And just to reiterate, because as we all know at this point, my mic was off for
Nate's
a second.
mic was off.
I
was
finally
sitting
pulled,
here just
after all
talking
these
to
years,
no
we've
one.
been doing this for almost 3 years now, and I finally pulled a mic. For those of us that don't know, or that are new, Mike did this way back when, and we made fun of him. Now I've apparently joined
Well,
the
it was
club.
actually, we delayed our start because of it.
We delayed our start
That's what it
because
was.
Mike couldn't figure out what was
I have
wrong
yet. You
with
are
his mic.
you're the only one
And then we
who's
found
ever had
out.
an actual episode. I think
That's true.
with the mic off.
We
Ours
literally
was-
for like an hour. He was
like
like
45
he was like,
minutes
Uncle,
of
I don't
Nate-
know what's going on. My audio is messed up. It's not working. It's not coming through. And,
Well, not coming through. I was like,
Like we were testing.
you just
it.
kept testing it, and then like check
Test 1,
one,
2.
check 2.
Not coming
Oh,
through.
let's try a different feed. Check one. It's nothing.
An
Check these
hour.
mics, these
His mic
mics,
was
these
just
mics.
turned off.
We'll try different. And at the time too, we had a much more complicated configuration to make all of the USB mic, all of it work perfectly.
True.
Not ISB.
Yeah.
That's different because that's the show we're talking about.
Yeah.
But USB mics, and it was so complicated. And then at the very end, I go,
Like, I'll flip the switch.
wait a second.
It's off.
Do I have to flip the switch on? And everyone was like,
So
oh
good.
my gosh.
So anyway, now you're filled in. I pulled
Yeah.
a mic. But just to reiterate, because we got player in here, Rural, that's got a great question that we'll get to. But to reiterate, for those of you that are tuning in, our overall thoughts, again, since my mic was off, loved the episode. What I had said earlier was that I think we all, or at least the majority of the internet that I saw online, loved episode 6. Absolutely loved episode 6. Thought it was great. We had the heist, all of it, visually, just the whole thing. They've been building up to it. I think this episode picked up exactly where it left off. Very different episode. Not a big action sequence, right? Not the heist. But the moments like you're talking about, the dialogue and stuff, I thought was just as good and had me just on the edge of my seat
So
the whole
good.
time, because we jump from character to character and they kind of put us right back in. All right, last episode was all Cassian, the heist, that was going on, and now it's like, boom, now we're right back to Mon Mothma, right back to Luthen, we're right back to.
in this.
And I think a good way to maybe go about it for this podcast, I even made a tweet earlier kind of going through different characters and their arc after this episode, is to just kind of go through kind of each character, where they're at, and kind of take an angle at those plot points. Before we do that, I want to address what we got here in the chat.
Let's do it.
Do y'all think we'll see Kanan and Hera in any episode? What do you think?
I do not. While I do think it makes sense as far as storytelling time period, I don't believe so, because I believe they're saving Hera, especially Kanan, probably, unless it would be some sort of flashback or vision or something like that, Kanan would not be around for the events of Ahsoka.
Ahsoka, yeah.
But Hera would. And I think that they're saving. I think that they are. I think that this show, while I think in the episode that we watched today, this is the first really mentions of Palpatine and the Emperor, and mentioned him over and over and over again. And while watching it, I even went, "Ooh, are they actually gonna put Palpatine in this show?" And then I immediately sat there and thought, "I'm okay if they don't.
They don't need to.
I would love it if they do, because I love Ian McDermott in everything. But also, I'm not sitting here waiting like around the corner going, I wish that this person should be here because of this. While it lines up, and if they do have like a Hera or a Kanan, that'd be awesome. I would bet against it just because it feels like it's more of a different kind of show.
Yeah,
I agree.
That's
my take.
I agree. Like you said, timeline wise, it would.
I would love those characters.
It would make sense that we could see them, but as far as the characters are following with this series, it seems like those are two separate things.
Yeah.
Especially considering in Rebels we never see them cross Cassian. That we never see that. So it's not like there's a history there where we know that there's an overlap already.
Yeah, we don't see Cassian in Rebels.
Yeah. So I don't think so, but you never know. But yeah, I don't think we will. I mean, in Rogue One they did, call out Harrison Dula. Or General Syndulla report and they even have Chopper or whatever rolling by. But
yeah,
I think those are just little nods to the time period and where we're at. I don't necessarily think they'll be in the series.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, it would be cool. It would be cool to see the Senate session and just hear him.
True.
Not see him. True. That would be cool too.
I will say that if I had to bet,
would be the most.
If I had to bet, that would be the only place we would see Palpatine in this show.
I agree.
We did, would be a brief Senate thing. But even the way that they've shown Mon Mothma and parts of the Senate without showing Palpatine so far, it makes it feel like they could still continue and have some Senate sessions where it is like Mon Mothma was up there giving her speech, and then all of a sudden everyone ran out and because of the events of the rebellion. But I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see.
So what do you think? You want to go through different plots, different characters, and just kind of dive into what we got?
Let's do that. But first,
let me take a selfie.
Let me read.
Okay.
But
wasn't that a song?
That was something. That feels like a million years ago.
Parker, hello. Lewis, hello. What's going on?
Let me read this real quick because I screenshot. Someone screenshot some of the dialogue from the show.
I will allow that.
And this is some of my favorite dialogue from the show so far. Was for those of you who have been watching from the beginning of our stream tonight, I was talking about how conversation between Marva and Cassian is one of my favorites that we've had. And here's some of the dialogue from this. I just love how it's written. For 13 years, every time I walk down Rick's Road, I turn off before I get to the square. I take the long... I screenshot this just so I don't have to write it all out.
Yeah.
I take the long way around so I don't have to think about Clem hanging there. And then they cut to that scene of his legs dangling there, and you're like, man, we didn't know he was... We didn't know. I mean, we saw the flashback of him going out.
It makes sense.
And him telling Cass, no, don't go out there. And then he gets out there at the wrong time, gets blamed for what's going on, hung in the streets just like that when he wasn't even the one who did it.
Yeah.
Then yesterday, I heard about this attack at Aldhani. Have you heard about this, Cassian? What about it? He says, what about it? Well, B played me the news. Do you know what I'm talking about? Yeah, the garrison on Aldhani. I heard that. I put on my best coat and I walked across the square with a smile on my face, is what Marva said. If there are heroes brave enough to take on a whole Imperial garrison, I'm brave enough to stick it out here. I don't expect you to understand. Aldhani was just a robbery. People are standing up, and getting killed for it. But that's work that will need doing. Yeah? What is that? Whatever it takes. I've been lying around waiting to die long enough. You can't beat them, Marva. Not if I run away. You have a different path, Cass, and I'm not judging you. Everything you have gone through, everything that was taken away from you before you even started. Take all the money you found and go and find some peace. I won't have peace. I'll be worried about you all the time, she said. This is how it finishes.
That is love.
That's just love.
Yeah.
Nothing you can do about that. I've never loved anything the way I love you, and I've never fretted on anything more. But this time, You can't stay, and I can't go.
That
It's so
right
well
there
done.
is just incredible.
I feel like we've gotten similar scenes before in a movie where it's just, hey, you got to go, and it's time to go. Come on, pack your things, because they're
and then they do the look.
It's a
and they're
similar. It's a similar kind of a.
They do the
trope
look, and
or
then there's no word. There's like no word exchange, and they just both
There's
know. and then
often
they
that. There's often that night before in a
Yeah.
moment. Oh yeah, let's go do it. And then when it's time to go, come on, you go. I can't go. I can't leave everything. And
Yeah.
then this was so much better
much
than just
deeper.
that. So much deeper. Talking about how the reason I believe in this is why I can't go. It's not because I want to stay and die. It's because to stand up to them, I can't just run away.
Yeah,
And
I've been running.
I love the fact that she doesn't know that Cassian was a
I
part
know.
of the
and
was
we'll-
part of the heights.
okay,
And
let's
she said,
just
if there are
dive all
people
into
brave
this.
enough to do that, if
Yeah.
there are people brave enough to do that, then I'm brave enough to stay. And she has no idea
Yes.
that Cassian just came from
I completely agree. I couldn't agree
love it.
more. The whole dialogue, and I even
that.
tweeted
Also,
this
her
earlier.
acting is phenomenal.
Oh yeah, she's great. Both
She
of
is.
them.
And
And
Petunia can act with the best of them.
that's with the best of them, with Cassian.
Turns out all I needed was Uncle Vernon getting out of the way.
That's true. I mentioned something earlier about this too on Twitter, and it was about that moment. How she is completely bought in now to the rebellion.
Mm-hmm.
And I find that conversation with Cassian extraordinarily interesting, like you're saying, because she doesn't know it was him, and she's so proud of that moment.
Yes.
And he, being the one involved in it, is not necessarily proud of it, just did it for the money. And I think it just shows that even though he did that, he still has no understanding of what
No.
the cause is.
No.
It's a highlight of how much further his character has to go before the Cassian we see in Rogue One.
Ken Knapsack said it well on their podcast, on the Force Center podcast today, which I only heard a couple minutes of it before I came here, but I heard him say, watching this episode, there are times when you're just like, you want to smack Cassian to wake him up. Because you're like, do you still not understand? And
I
it's so
know.
great the way that they're, and it's awesome. I think often people see a prequel or people see, I know people often say, oh, this is a story we didn't need because we know that something happens afterwards. And I've heard that used before, too, as like a negative.
We already know the outcome.
I saw someone on Twitter say, we knew the outcome of, I saw some, apparently there have been some arguments by some people who have been critics of the show or have, frankly,
Like-
not watched the show.
Yeah.
There's some people who are like, oh, I'm not going to watch that. I already know what happens to him in Rogue One. And I saw someone, might have been Mesa Windu, who said on Twitter, since 1983, we've known that Darth Vader dies. We all watched Hayden Christensen. We all watched Jake Lloyd. We all watched the prequels because we wanted to see what happened before. Knowing the outcome of something doesn't change the fact that we're still not interested in the journey of getting there.
Yeah.
We
It's
know-
almost, sometimes it makes it more interesting.
In fact, I'm a could not be a bigger fan of Better Call Saul. And I know in Better Call Saul is a little different because there's some jumping
But
points
you
at the
know
end. But
where it goes.
99% of that show happens before Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
There's a couple of moments that go
Yeah,
past
yeah.
it. But you want to know, how did he get here? And it's so when they're right. And again, the reason I use Better Call Saul is it's not huge whiz bang action adventure stuff. There's a little bit of that and like a little bit of life on the line stakes, but most of it's dialogue, tension, courtroom settings, interpersonal like relationship stuff. That's what this show is, except on a political level as well. And I know we'll get to Mon Mothma and we'll get to some other characters, but we can start. You want to start some of the rundowns of the characters, even or continuing?
Yeah,
going?
we can do that.
I just
Last thing I
love
want
it.
to touch
love
on what
it.
you're saying is this. I actually thought about that the other day about how people have made the comments of, oh, we already know what happens. Like, why are we telling the story? And essentially, that's every prequel.
That's
But
very pretty.
I also find it extraordinarily funny that right now the biggest shows on TV are all prequels. Every single one of them.
Exactly.
Rings of Power, prequel series. House of the Dragon, prequel series. Andor, prequel series.
House of the Dragon.
Literally every big franchise, prequel.
House of the Dragon. You don't, even though we may not know, if you're a book reader of Fire and Blood, you would know maybe specifically what happens to some of the characters.
Yeah.
But we do know what happens to the house, and we know what happens of who's on the throne.
And we
in
know
the
why
future.
some houses are around and some are not.
And yet, still, you can have amazing storytelling.
Exactly.
It's Rings of Power. The three shows that are on TV, it's something you were just saying. The three shows are all prequels. They're all massive, and they're all very well done, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And
And setting records.
setting
I
records.
guess Andor's apparently the
Andor
numbers have
apparently
been low
there's-
just because of it's the name and stuff. but-
I know. It's
which is unfortunate.
it
'cause
is
I think
unfortunate
it's
because
amazing.
I think it's so good. And what's interesting is Andor. While I've liked a lot of the other shows, maybe more than some other people that I think on our podcast we loved Obi-Wan Kenobi. Was it perfect, or were there moments where like, oh, this maybe could have been tweaked, this maybe could have been tweaked? Of course, to me that's just about every single any show, any movie. There's nothing that's perfect.
Anything. Love
But
Lord of the Rings.
As far as what I was
Love
looking
Lord
for,
of the Rings. I argue all the time that Lord of the Rings is essentially a perfect trilogy. Are there moments where you can see dead orcs moving?
well, there's also so I just it's funny you mentioned Lord of the Rings. Abigail and I, my wife and I, just went through and rewatched all of Lord to get ready for Rings of Power. We went and started and did all of the Lord of the Rings films extended edition rewatch, and we would watch like 2 hours a day. So it'd take like.
By the way, this is the Lord of the Rings cast.
It would
We
get
gotta make sure.
It'd take like 2 days to get through one movie because we just didn't
Well,
have
yeah, it
time to
takes
sit there
forever.
for 4 hours. And then Return of the King was 4 hours and 45 minutes. Extended edition was that long. It was like 5 hours long.
So great.
But even in that, there are moments that I love, even as a kid. Like I wasn't that young. I was like 12 or 13 when Return of the King came out. But that I've loved for years. That I do think, oh, if that came out now, that would be, if that was in Rings of Power, that would be criticized as corny or cheesy. Two Towers is a phenomenal film.
oh yeah.
Incredible. And in Two Towers, there's still, looks like meat's back on our menu, boys. Like, could you imagine if an orc in Rings of Power stood up and goes like, we've only been eating vegan. Meat's back on our menu, boys.
Yeah, I can't have some meat.
Like,
yeah.
it's,
People would rip it apart.
what about the legs? I don't need those.
But now it's some of the
But
greatest
it's-
quotes.
So
It's amazing.
I didn't take that as a criticism of the Peter Jackson films either. I just thought, even when I watched it, I was like, that's great. This is awesome. So I think there's some things that people are overly critical about, but it's interesting that with the lower viewership for Andor, that it's also the most universally praised maybe of any of the. I mean, I know pretty much most people
For those
love
that are
Mando.
watching, yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Of the people
Yeah,
that are
yeah, yeah.
watching, it's like the highest rated Star Wars show, I believe, as far as
Yeah, it's up there.
on like Rotten Tomatoes, and then even just people that I know that have not liked some of the more
I really
recent Star
do
Wars
think
stuff.
it is a
It's
matter
phenomenal.
of just, and not that I could come up with something better, but
I
I,
think
do
it's a
think it's
challenge.
just the nature of it following Andor, which is not Hayden Christensen. It's not an
Yeah,
Obi-Wan. It's
I do.
not
I agree. I think
and
that
so
it's
people that don't really are not that connected with Rogue One don't know about.
I
the
think
show.
it's a challenge. It is a challenge when they decided, because my initial gut reaction, and we talked about this on the podcast, 3-ish years ago, 3 or 4 years ago now, when they announced one of our first shows, we're going to do this Mandalorian show, and our second show, this was the time period of when they announced it, was going to be Andor, this Cassian Andor show. I remember at the time thinking, wow, I love Rogue One. Interesting. They're going to make a whole show about him. Like, that seems like kind of more of a side character who I liked, but I did think, oh, that's an interesting choice.
Yeah.
And they didn't go to like a Jedi, or they didn't go to someone a little more
Yeah,
well
yeah.
known. Now, this ended up coming out a little bit years later, got bumped a little bit with COVID and different things. But maybe, and again, I don't think it's a mistake or anything like that, but maybe had it been under a different title, or maybe it had been Mon Mothma is the name of the show, or maybe it's, like,
yeah.
instead of Rebels being called Ezra,
Maybe Luthen.
instead of Rebels being called Ezra, it's called Rebels. And then
Right.
immediately people, it takes them to a time period of, Rebels,
This is
Rebellion.
Star Wars Rebels.
Now, if there wasn't a show
Clone
already called
Wars.
Rebels, this might be called Rebels or the Rebellion or something
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that,
true.
honestly.
Yeah, they could have.
Even though I think Diego Luna in the character of, I think Diego Luna is doing a great job. I think the character of Cassian's doing a great job. It's obviously a bigger show than just Cassian. He is the driving through line through the middle because
but it really is the.
but it
Rebels.
is. It's the rebellion. It's
Yeah,
the
the
beginning of the
rebellion.
rebellion. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
All right. The characters.
Let's do it.
Character. All
Yep,
right.
let's do
First
it.
one we got here. I'm
do
just
a little rapid fire here.
I'm using my Twitter thread I made earlier as reference to go through each of these things. But
We should tell people tonight we're going to try to go a little bit shorter on the podcast,
go
just
a
to
little
let people
quicker.
know.
Yeah.
A little quicker. We'll probably wrap this up around 9 o'clock. Maybe it'll allow some of you who stay up to try to watch our show
yeah.
to not feel like they're only halfway done. And then
That's true.
Sometimes we get going and then we go, it's 10:30. Maybe we should wrap
That's
this
true.
up because people have to get to
That's
bed.
true.
So let us know in the comments if you like a shorter show or a longer show. 'Cause
Yeah,
we're trying out a
seriously.
little bit different format.
We're really looking for feedback all the time.
Trying a little different format. The
on
only
our
reason I
stuff.
say that is we'll probably go a little bit quicker on some of these characters we'll talk about, but we'll be a couple minutes
Yeah.
and move on.
All right, first one, Luthen. Do you want to start? You want me to start?
You can start on Luthen.
All right, Luthen. This is just my first quick thought, and we can dive into it. I'm referencing my first quick thought.
My first
Um,
quick thought.
Again, referencing some tweets because I made a thread. So
Ooh.
he's definitely even more ruthless than I thought. That was my start. He's leaning. I definitely think he's leaning more toward the side of Saw Gerrera in the sense that casualties are just a number. Everybody's expendable. He even says, Cassian, we got to get rid of him. He's too much of a threat. Even his assistant is going out telling, what's her name?
By the way, his
Val-
assistant's one of my
Val
favorite characters.
Oh, yeah.
She was so in the
Going out-
hood.
Oh, yeah.
That
I
was
know.
so cool. And
So good.
I think I didn't even realize maybe until that scene, or she had a couple of scenes with Luthen where I'm like, whoa, she's a really strong character where she pushes back on
Yeah.
him. And then
Yeah,
she
yeah.
comes to her and it's like, no, you don't get to talk to him like you're talking to me right now. And then
Yeah.
is like really pressing.
She's
Val.
part of it. She's not just his.
She's not just
in.
a little
She's
messenger.
in.
No,
Yeah.
she's deep into it.
Yeah. But and then making that even more clear when she goes and talks to Vel.
I love
About-
that. Was spy,
about-
that was classic spy stuff.
It
right
was.
there.
It really was. And making their appearance obviously look different between the both of them.
Mhm.
But basically saying, find your next job is finding Cassian and taking him out
I know.
because he's a loose end.
that's
And there's
spy
no
stuff.
loose ends. So it's immediately I'm hearing this. I'm thinking this dude, he's in cahoots with Saw Gerrera.
Could be.
And if
Could be
not,
Saw,
if not,
could be a
maybe
separate
Saw,
thing,
maybe
like-
Saw is even maybe he's someone that influenced Saw to get
Well,
to that point.
So how about this? This is a little tying him and this is touching on him and Mon Mothma a little bit. Were you surprised? I was a little surprised because we talked about before that Mon Mothma felt a little behind the game.
She did.
in this.
She was,
Like she's not. She was
taken
not
back.
in the forefront of. She knows everything that's going on. She says, "Was this you?" And I thought,
Yeah.
"Man, you didn't even know this was going
Yeah.
on." He's like, "I told you this was like
Yeah.
things have to be done." And then,
And
but I will say,
Yeah.
I think it kind of pressed her because I think that's
That's what I
why
was
she
gonna
has the
say.
dinner party conversation of like, we got to get this going.
it presses her, and he even mentions basically, you're in now, whether you like it or not. It's too late. The repercussions, the news, everyone's
it.
talking about
There's
it.
no-
It's begun.
He's like, I said I would do this.
I
She's
told
like,
you,
didn't
and
say
it's
that. He said, I
happening.
said there'd be no turning back.
Yeah.
So
So
there'd be
he's
no-
like, he's like, you're in,
It's a
whether you
point
like
of
it or not,
return.
you're in. And then that gets her to,
Gosh.
which I guess if we want, we can go
Man,
straight to
man.
Mon Mothma and Tay Kolma,
Ooh.
the friend. So
Kolma,
Mon
yes.
Mothma, that whole the dinner scene that they kind of teased a few episodes ago.
Take Colma. That was the gentleman's name.
Yeah.
Okay, because I forgot to write down this. I'm glad you got that.
Yep. So
That
Mon
I
and
could
Tay-
watch that scene. His acting was great too. As someone who's like the acting between
Oh,
the
yeah.
two of them, where she's saying stuff and he's trying to pick it up, and he's like, "What?" I love how he's like, "Well, I don't really want to talk politics because honestly, like,
You
basically, he's
you
like,
might
I know,
find my politics to be a bit extreme.
yeah." He's like, "As I know you're friends with a lot of these people,
You're
and
in
honestly,
Coruscant.
I think that you probably are more wrapped up in it than I am. Where I see the horrors that are going on, and honestly, you probably wouldn't like."
Yeah.
You wouldn't like how harsh I'd be talking to you about it. And she's like,
Yeah.
well, now I know I can definitely trust you. And then she still wouldn't tell him everything.
Yeah. And not
But
to
it's-
get like super political,
Oh, I
but it
love
definitely made like reminded me of like I understand some of the quotes now that some of the actors had about politics
Oh, for
and
sure.
about how it's like
This is the most.
no, I might be at the White House, I might be here, but I'm I have an agenda of trying to get this pushed or this
For sure.
law or this. So you kind of get that feeling.
There's also,
of
you have
like,
to
no,
know,
I'm putting on a face.
you have to know people's alignment who are going to
and
help
you
you.
got to be careful.
You
with
got to
who
be
you're
careful with
talking to.
who you're talking to. You have to. I love that she also is like, here comes Perrin. Don't tell him he can't be trusted.
He can't be. Yeah,
Her
that was
husband,
key.
I love
Her
it. He
own
comes
husband
over.
Can't be trusted.
Oh, talking about old school stories, are we? You know us too well.
Yeah.
Perrin's such
One
a
of my
dweeb.
favorite moments in that entire sequence was not just the name drop of Emperor Palpatine,
Couple
but-
Palpatine mentions
couple
this time.
Palpatine, but I think my favorite moment was her referencing the fact that she's actually learned from Palpatine.
I know
that
about
as
how to
someone
play
who's
the game.
good and is starting to become part of this rebel
About
alliance
how to play the
is
game.
learning to play the political game of putting on a fake face,
Because listen,
putting on a front, but really have a hidden agenda.
regardless of what anyone, it's funny is when I say, if you say regardless of what you think about someone, it makes it sound like, oh, there's probably an equal amount of people who think he's
Yeah.
good or he's bad. There isn't. Palpatine's straight up evil, like obviously. So taking the fact that even though he is straight up evil incarnate, the epitome of the evil, he's the devil of the Star Wars universe.
It's not like people don't really know. Like, they don't know the full extent of his whole Sith side of everything, I would assume.
No, yeah.
But people know that he basically came in, corrupted, and took over power.
Yeah, but people are blinded by. I was talking even more as an audience. As an audience, we
Oh,
know
well, yeah, true.
that he's pure evil. There aren't people who are
Is he?
Palpatine apologists. I don't think.
There's no
At
diehard
least there shouldn't be.
Palpatinists out there.
At least there shouldn't be. Don't invite him to my house.
Don't do that.
But I was gonna say, despite that, with that in hand, we also can all acknowledge that he's a brilliant manipulator, politician.
Yeah. The best.
Where he has the long game. He's playing. Excuse me. He's playing.
The king of putting on
multiple
a fake
different-
face.
He is the ultimate two-faced.
Yeah.
Just, I can do this. Oh, I'm surprised, to be sure. I had no idea that this would happen, except that I've been putting this in motion for the last 10 years to try to do all this. So I love that she's like, oh, I've learned from him. I also love the quote that we finally got that we saw in the trailer,
Yeah.
which was, as long as people think I'm an annoyance, it
right.
was an annoyance, then maybe they won't see what I'm really doing.
What I'm really doing.
What
yeah.
are you really doing?
I love it though. It
what
really is
what
the
I'm truly
old-
up to. What are you up to?
It really is like the stereotypical,
Love it.
like, where's the
Love
best
it.
place to hide? Right under the enemy's nose.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It's like,
Mhm.
he even references, like, you're here in Coruscant. You're literally at the capital. Of course you're, like, of course he would assume that she's all this stuff. And she's like, let the people whisper these things about me. As long as they keep thinking this,
As long as
then
you
they'll
think that.
never understand what I'm really doing. And I
Ugh.
love it. I love it.
It's so good.
But it does make me curious, though. Who is this character, and how involved does he get?
Well, what's interesting? So what's interesting on this same front? This episode, I'm not sure if you caught it. It's kind of a deep cut. This episode did introduce. So one of the things with all these
I
characters,
think I know where you're going.
I was going to say Colonel Wolf Yularen
Yeah.
was. He's the older gentleman who comes in with the mustache.
Yeah.
He's in charge. So he is from episode 4, A
Yep.
New Hope.
Yep.
He's in that first Imperial scene. He was a background character who really was like an unnamed background character.
Yeah. But it's Star Wars,
Who
so
then-
you end up getting a name for
Well,
everybody.
he then was given a name, and then he was in Clone Wars.
Yeah,
he was
he
in
was.
Clone Wars.
Yep.
And what's interesting about him in Clone Wars is he worked with the clones and worked with the Jedi. He was kind of a friend of them,
Mhm.
even when stuff was kind of going south a little bit. So it was interesting to then see him in this time period, and you go, "Gosh dang it, he went straight to the dark." You're like,
Yeah,
we
where
saw
he
it
never
was-
looked back.
It was like we had. I mean, we knew. First of all, we saw you in A New Hope. We knew that you end up staying with the
Yeah.
Empire. But when he actually opens his mouth and talks a little bit, you're like, oh, no, yeah, you're pretty ruthless too. You're
Yeah.
like, maybe
Yeah.
you were just kind of
No,
going
you're-
along with it.
Yeah, no, you're terrible.
But no, yeah, the authoritarian, yeah,
Yeah.
that's
yeah.
that lines up.
Dictator.
But that was cool. That was yeah, it was cool to see. It was cool to see a familiar name
Yeah.
added to a show that mainly has the reason I was bringing that up is that it mainly has a lot of characters that were like, oh, we don't see them later on. So I wonder, are they
I
just
know.
not in A New Hope but somewhere else? Because
Yeah.
obviously, every single character that's alive during the time of New Hope is not featured in A New Hope. Ahsoka's not in A New Hope. We know she's alive during that time
Yeah.
period.
Yeah.
There's a lot of characters, but yeah.
Yeah.
All right, next one. I
Next
forgot. We got trying to go rapid fire
All right.
here. I love it.
Here we go. So that was Mon Mothma dinner scene. Let's see. Marva, we already talked about.
I love Marvel.
We already
Yeah,
talked about it. I love
we'll keep going.
it.
from that.
Next one, Andor. I
I-
wrote, or you can start with this one.
I love so. Even though we were talking earlier about how the show is about a lot of different things, it's about the rebellion for sure. It's definitely about the Empire. The Empire first recognizing the rebellion, maybe being late to recognize the rebellion. We'll talk about Dedra, however you say
Yeah.
her name. But with Cassian, the backstory stuff is always fascinating. I love the flashbacks.
Yeah.
For a second, it did get me for a second. I thought, are we getting K2SO right now? And then I was like,
I
oh,
did
wait, no,
too.
episode
I
2
did
or
too.
season 2, they said he wouldn't be there till season 2. And
But
so
they-
then when he
I-
opens his mouth,
They
you
did
go, okay, that's
yeah,
not him.
yeah.
And
They
then
did
there was another
tease
one of
it
him in
with
the
it,
background. And he
yeah.
went, what?
He even
Oh,
kind of walks into frame the
How about
same way.
the brutality of him choking him?
Oh my gosh.
You're like, oh, he's just going to kill him right here.
I know. That was
Um,
insane.
that was
That was insane.
But I'm very invested in Cassian. I'm very him coming back and seeing Bix. We talked about Bix. We thought we said last episode, will we see any Bix, any Marvo? We got Bix and Marvo. We
I
got a
know.
mention of Tim. And Tim was because he didn't know that Tim betrayed him.
No, he didn't.
He didn't know anything about
I
that
like
because
that
remember
he
he
found
got
out.
out of there and then they're like, oh, because your boyfriend tried to betray me.
Yeah.
Your
I know.
crazy boyfriend
You're
tried to
crazy,
betray
yeah.
me and got himself killed.
And we got more information on their history, which I kind of assumed.
She
but
said we thought we were dating
it makes
again.
sense why.
would you
Yeah,
think
we
that?
thought we were together.
I
Again,
knew
or-
they were dating at some
yeah,
point.
yeah, yeah.
But
I
we
could
don't
see those
but we-
sparks from a
But we
mile.
don't see. But we don't see Bix in Rogue One.
We don't.
But again,
But again,
not every single
it makes
person's
me
hanging
feel
around
like-
in the secret missions that he's on.
That's true, but also the way this kind of ended. Now I'm wondering already again, like, will we see Bix anymore? Because they kind of ended. He's like, all right,
it is
I'm
kind
out.
of like I'm finally getting because
Finally
I
getting
really
over
don't
it.
know if we'll see Marv anymore. Either. It doesn't sound like we
It
would
doesn't sound like we'll
because
see
she
him.
said unless he just goes back there again.
Unless he goes
And when he
back
went
to
there, they
commit
said,
to,
"Get out of here! You don't." Both Marva and Bix said
Nobody
it is
likes
too
you here.
It was too dangerous too. It's too dangerous.
But also
Everyone
the people don't
blames
want
you.
Yeah,
Everyone blames you. But she's like, "Where it's under Imperial control."
yeah.
And then he's like, well, then we'll go somewhere else. She's like, it's happening everywhere. Like, wake up. That's happening on
I
all the
know.
different planets. We'll
And
go
he
somewhere they haven't been
still-
yet.
he
Well, they're
still
going to take it over there.
Still, yeah, and they show that.
Yeah.
So yeah,
So I'm loving Cassian.
I kind of said this earlier, but Cassian's clearly nowhere near the character that he becomes by Rogue One at this point.
Yeah.
As far as diving into the
Also,
rebellion.
that beach scene where he's on like a Jamaican resort
I know, with some
And then
person we've never seen before.
gets wrongly accused as being part of something.
yeah.
Gets
It's
roped
the same
into
thing
it.
that happened to his dad, basically.
Exactly. Gets
then
the
it's
gets
6
a harsh
years.
sentencing because of it, which ties into why we see all of the maybe the stuff on him and all this
Yeah.
the tattoos from the facility and everything.
Yeah.
But sorry, continue.
No, I that's where I was going.
that was a cool location though.
It was a cool.
There
I
were
was
like people sipping,
You
and
kind
I
of
was
had
like,
the same
oh.
Scarif, like sand trooper.
Did they had like with like
guards.
with like almost like the camo
Yeah,
style?
Like
It
sand,
was.
basically.
It was like a
It's
scout
a-
trooper, sand
yeah.
trooper, the beach troopers, I think.
Yeah. I do think that his
Beach
after the way this episode ended with him getting falsely, accused, I do think this is leading down a quick path to him realizing there is no running from the Empire. I need to stand with my mom. I need to stand with these people and make a stance.
He needs to stand with my mama and my mathma.
Yeah, exactly. My mama and my mathma.
My mathma. So he's
But-
speaking with his mama, Cyril. All right,
But
we'll get
they
to
were they
Cyril.
were showing the fact that like they tried to make it look like this is some remote place
Mhm.
outside the Empire's control, and of course, here come he's looking at the probe droids flying over.
Yep.
He sees the troopers running, and it just makes you think. Like, for me, I'm watching that and going, "This is the place he thought was basically the best place he could get away,"
Uh-huh.
and clearly he can't. There
Nope.
is no running. There
Nope.
is no running. And even though he's not getting chased down for his crimes, right? Even though they don't know it's Cassian, he's not getting chased down for his crimes. The Empire's going to find a way to lock you up. They're going to find
Yeah,
a way to
there's-
control you. So,
Mhm.
like, even though this was all fake and he got accused of other things that he didn't do and goes to jail and all this stuff and gets locked up, he's realizing this isn't even, like, this is the outcome no matter what.
Well, yeah, you're finding out just the corruption of just the whole
All of it.
government,
Yeah.
the system, whatever. Of now, same thing that happened to his dad. His dad was actually trying to de-escalate things. You
Yeah.
know, Clem goes out there, Cassian, don't get involved, and, he's like, and people are throwing stuff, and you get out there, and then he turns around, and you're like, what the heck? Wasn't
Yeah.
even like he's getting involved, and he's
Yep.
getting
Yep.
blamed for something he wasn't even involved in. It's now just the nature of power that's just gone too far.
Yep.
And so, like, the fact that he even just walked in, they go, hey, are you a part of it? I'm like, what? Where are you up to? You're looking around. He's like, I'm just looking.
Yeah.
I'm just looking. Hey, up against the wall. You're like, what the heck? What's
Like,
going
these guys
on?
Are just terrible.
You're like, it's just people who just completely gone
you look at me wrong.
power hungry. And
Yeah.
that's it.
All the way
Maybe.
down to the troopers, literally. But I do think it's interesting that knowing the history of his dad now too,
Mm-hmm.
and how wronged he has been by the Empire,
Yeah.
that he's still like. I'm surprised that even at this point he wants to run. Like,
Yeah, I think maybe
Like,
it's just
why-
that he
like,
thinks
I
that
guess-
standing up won't do anything, but I don't know. Yeah, it's
but
it's-
like
it feels like
does
it's
make
coming
me
though.
feel like
Obviously,
why? Yeah, it's obviously coming, and that's the direction it's going. But it does feel like I don't know. The whole time he had the conversation
it's
with
like he has
Marva,
enough reason to hate the
with
Empire. at this
Marva,
point.
I'm thinking you kind of have similar, even though
Although he does
you
hate
do
the
have
Empire,
similar reasons.
he said, "I know what I'm against."
Yeah,
He just has not believed in the rebellion,
yeah. He just doesn't. Yeah,
right?
he doesn't necessarily think that that's all okay either, and it's not.
Yeah.
There's stuff they do that's not okay.
Yeah.
For sure.
All right, next, what we got here?
This is just a side note, but I just said the clones. The
Yeah,
clones. Cool seeing the
I
clones
know.
live action, not digitally.
pretty sweet.
No special effects. Actual live action troopers,
Love
clone
it.
troopers. Thought that was really cool to see them. And I don't know about you, but I thought the way they were marching and turning and stuff were actually way more menacing than like the stormtroopers.
It was scary.
There's something about the clones that just like they turn like that. And
Something
you're
that
like,
is-
oh my gosh,
The
dude.
clones have always, if you maybe it's from being part of from watching Clone Wars. I think the clones have always felt way more
Like
militarized.
military.
They're
yeah.
well, way better trained.
Military.
Like when you watch some
you're
of the
marching,
training
you're-
episodes, some of the
Clones-
training episodes in Clone
Yeah.
Wars. Oh, you got my back.
Yeah.
And then you watch, hey, open up in there.
yeah.
Open up in there.
Or like
It's
running around the
That's
corner.
what you got on the storm.
stormtroopers.
That's the stormtroopers. Open up in there. He's in there like comlink. So his comlink must be down.
Yeah,
Where the
yeah.
clones are like, oh, I smell a trap. they're just
It's
so
just-
much more
seeing that
military
live
boys.
action, I was like, dude, that's
was
more
cool.
way more intimidating than
yeah.
the stormtroopers. But yeah,
What we
next
got?
one. Karn.
So them ending on, I kind of felt it coming that they were gonna end on a cliffhanger again.
Yeah,
But
of course, it's the next 3-episode arc.
wait, Uncle Harlow, Harlow.
I don't know.
Uncle Harlow.
Her voice.
He's like, but Uncle, who looks like Sam Witwer. He looks like Sam, not the mom, but
Yeah.
Karn, Cyril. Where's he going? What have you got for Karn?
I just all I put is that this dude.
feels like they're training.
I'll
us.
just read
like
verbatim
he's gonna
what I put.
snap. Doesn't it feel like he's gonna snap
Okay,
and be a
listen,
psycho?
This is exactly what I
feel
wrote.
like
This was
we're
my
watching
tweet.
someone become a psycho.
This was my part of the thread that
We'll
I
see.
tweeted for Karn. I said, Karn, this dude is still such a mystery to me. I could honestly see him diving all in with the Empire or completely jumping ship to join the rebels once seeing how corrupt the Empire really is. He seems like a loose cannon ready to go off.
a ticking time bomb.
He really is.
Because the reason I say that is because he seems so reserved,
And it could
which
be
is
against
a little,
anybody.
which is a little creepy in the Star Wars universe because you don't see even our good guys
Yeah.
aren't usually this stoic. Yeah, all right, Mom. Well, I guess I'll go do this. I'll go get a desk job. do
While
this.
cutting
While
the scenes
also-
of him staring out the window thinking. You're like, this
like-
dude is plotting.
He's like, all right, I'm giving a desk job, and then he goes, it looks like a hologram, and it's just Cassian, and you're like, this is creepy. It's like
Literally.
it's like like there's movies like The Riddler or something
Yeah,
like
it's
that
going-
where
it's
it's like
driving him
where it's like a
insane.
guy who's just like looks kind of normal. He's have a whole day, and then you have one creepy moment at the end of the day where he opens up a book and it's just like a hit list of names. He's adding some
Yeah.
to name. You're like, you
It's the
psycho
Joker.
killer. Like it is like
It's
it
like-
feels again. He could end up just becoming a completely different character. It
It's-
feels right now. There's something about it where
He's a
they're
ticking
playing
time bomb,
his
but it could
character
go
so-
off against the Empire or the rebels. I
they're
don't know.
playing his character so well because it is. I get on edge just even watching him because I'm like, there's something about his acting that's so good that it's like, ooh, it almost feels a little like
eerie. Like,
It is. It's a little
It-
Arthur Fleck, or
yeah.
well, even though it's not, it's not the Joker like laugh type of that, but it's like a little bit of some guy who feels like he's been
What's gonna
mistreated,
happen?
down on his luck, and then there's one person he wants to hate, and he might just take out the talk show host. like it
literally.
feels like that.
Yeah, and I
Man.
think the fact that
Man,
now
man,
he's
man.
like stuck at a desk is like even more like just like making him boil.
Yeah, it's
But
gosh.
I don't know. I really think he could go. And the reason I say that I wouldn't surprise me if he ended up going rebel is because even though he, is part of the Empire,
Yeah,
in his mind, it did make sense at the time that like Cassian's a guy I have no idea who he is. All I know is he killed officers, which is bad. He
Yeah.
killed people.
yeah.
and he's on the run. So based off that information alone, if you're a police officer, you're thinking, okay, this guy's, we got to go catch him.
We also know he killed someone, and then as we're trying to chase him, he blows
kills
up
more
a car and kills more of my people, and then
More
goes.
people.
So, you're like,
so
all
of
right.
course, so in his mind, he's thinking, he thinks he's in the right, and now it's driving him insane. So for him to think that, but then get to the point of recognizing how deep the corruption in the Empire goes, like if he gets there and his officers didn't want to do anything about it in the first place, and he did want to do quote unquote good, and then keeps diving deeper into the Empire and just realizing how corrupt they are, I could see him maybe starting to question where his loyalty is. But
Yeah.
I could also see him becoming Tarkin. So
True.
who knows? The dude's a loose cannon.
It is,
He's a loose cannon.
It's the only reason I would say doesn't where I couldn't see him becoming Tarkin is just that he doesn't have the political game.
Well,
for it.
no,
But
that's
I know
true.
what you mean,
But
though.
I
He
just
could
mean
go
like as
all in.
full like lunatic. Like
yeah, he's like
he's definitely. I mean, we saw his speech. He's no Tarkin.
feels unstable.
We saw his
Doesn't
speech.
he? He's no Tarkin. Let's go get him.
Okay, Adam.
Let's go get him. Well done,
Well
sir.
said, sir.
Well said, sir. Oh man.
Yeah. I don't
Anything
know.
else?
I got nothing really for him.
I
I'm just
know.
kind of waiting to hear what we got.
What more do we got here?
Last one. I saved it for last.
Let's do it.
Emperor Palpatine. We talked a little bit
Talked
about
a
it.
little bit. Do we think he? Do you? Because I kind of said my opinion. Do you think that he'll make an appearance in the show?
I don't think he'll make an appearance in the show, but based off this episode, it wouldn't surprise me if they show, because they tease Emperor Palpatine's going to host a meeting with the Senate.
Yeah.
And they've already showed the Senate. So, like,
True.
they could easily go to that and show some of that. We might. I also wouldn't be surprised at all if we just hear intercoms of his voice, or if we don't hear anything, honestly. So, like, I'm not, like, needing it to happen. If
Yeah.
it happens, I'm like, oh, that's cool. That's a bonus. Obviously, we love...
I don't think it's I don't think it's.
It doesn't feel necessary. It would just be, like, kind of a bonus thing, I think, if we saw it. But... So, if I had to guess, I'd say we're not going to see him.
Yeah.
But after this episode, I think I'm more open to that happening than I was before.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, I would agree with that.
But
It's.
I still don't think we will. But
I don't
you never
think we
know.
will, but also I wouldn't be surprised if we did.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's kind of
just
what I feel
because
on
of how much they're.
it. And if
diving
they
into
did,
the
it'd be
politics.
awesome. And if they didn't, the show has been awesome as it is.
Yeah.
So I'd be happy
Yeah.
either way.
And I will say part of that is because we thought, like my initial thought going into this was that, oh, these little things that are going on are kind of on a lower scale. Like this is beneath Palpatine.
Mm-hmm.
But they're clearly showing how big of an effect this heist was and how it's
Yeah.
rippling across the news. So it could be big enough to where, like they even said, Palpatine was going to have a meeting or with the Senate.
Yep.
So it's obviously gotten that big that I didn't necessarily see coming at the beginning. So you never know.
Never know.
But aside from that, I love the fact that they mentioned his name.
Oh yeah.
Just because, like, that to me makes more sense. Like, Mon Mothma's gonna mention Emperor Palpatine when they're at a political when they're at a dinner of all these politicians and stuff. They're gonna start talking about these things.
And we've said it before, but I love that she said I've learned from Palpatine.
This is my favorite
Like,
moment.
Not
you
like
know?
I've learned like, oh, I've been under his wing, but like I've watched him.
He taught
He's a
me.
brilliant manipulator and a brilliant
Two-Face.
Two-Face. So
Like-
I'm gonna play the game and
Yeah.
I'm gonna be Two-Face as well. And she's like, it's a farce. It's a lie.
It's a lie.
The real Mon. You're gonna get to know the real Mon
Yeah.
Mothma. The one you've seen in the Senate's a lie. I love that she flat
Yeah.
out said the one the one you've seen in the Senate's a complete lie.
Yeah.
He's like, what do you mean?
I also, we didn't touch on this earlier, but I also loved her emotion and her mannerisms when finally addressing that it was a lie. Like, to me,
Yeah.
it was like, okay, she's full bought in now with Luthen of like, I'm in. Like, I
Mhm.
get it. I get it. And if we're going to take a stance, now's the time. I got to get more people. I need money. Let's do it.
Yeah. No, I love it. I love
Uh-huh.
it. Couldn't be more excited about this show, and I love that
Yeah.
it's a 12-episode show, 12-episode season 1, and then we'll get a season 2. But it feels like we've gotten so much. So that's one of the reasons why also I love. And again, I know we're trying to wrap, so this will be real quick. But I know that it's definitely on the slower side of things as far as it taking its time, and I love that because they're like, we have 12 episodes.
And
I
they're
will say,
following a lot of characters.
if this was 6 episodes and that was the end of, the season finale was last episode, I would have still been like, I loved that first season so much. But I do love that we're able to spend time with the characters,
Yeah.
get the dialogue, get bounce back and forth through the ISB. I love, what's his name? I wrote it down. The head of Major Partagaz, from the guy from Game of Thrones,
yeah.
who plays Qyburn, and then being like, "Well done on them. Watch your back." And he's
Yeah,
like,
I love that.
I
It's even
love that
showing
it's-
that the guys on the inside
even though
of
she
the Empire
kind
are
of
like,
critiqued him.
she
He
did,
critiqued him.
and he loved
But he
it
liked it.
because he recognizes only someone who's corrupt would do that, and that
Yeah,
which
like-
makes you good for us.
And it's like, and someone
Only
who,
someone willing to break the rules.
someone who's not,
that's a good person.
Someone
for the
who
Empire.
who is not afraid to ruffle feathers
Yeah.
on our side or the other side, like who's wants more, not
Yeah.
content. And he's like, "We'll take that into consideration. And so and so, you should be doing more like her. You'll now
I
take over
know.
for this. And Deidre, a word.
Walk with me.
Walk with me.
Watch your back.
Watch your back."
Yeah,
And then just walks off.
so good.
It's so good.
I love that we're jumping around different characters
Ugh.
and different plots, and
I love all the
seeing both
ISB
sides.
stuff. I love. I
And
love the Marva
just the
scene.
last thing I
Luthen,
wanna
we're gonna
say
get
is-
so much Luthen.
yeah,
Luthen,
Luthen's
Red
great.
Riding Hood, his his assistant.
That's true. That's true. He's
Like,
Robin Hood. He's stealing from from the
Exactly.
rich,
Yeah,
stealing from the Empire.
exactly.
Last thing I want to say is, I know we say it every episode, but how big is this? How this scale? The visuals, of course,
show is
even just
enormous.
looking out the window of just having the special effects of ships flying and stuff underneath Coruscant, showing the depths of how deep things go. Like
Yeah,
everything is it just feels so big. It's huge.
it's huge.
Even just like the aerial shots of them walking to meet each other
mm-hmm.
with Vel and the assistant. I'm like,
That was so
dude,
cool.
It just feels.
You can
it
just
doesn't
feel-
look volume. It
No,
looks
you
like
feel
this is
them.
massive.
You feel how much
So-
money they put into it, which is
Yeah.
looks awesome.
Yeah. Well.
Love it. Nate, where can people find us?
Anyway, thanks for tuning in. If you made it this far, we appreciate your support as always. If you guys want to stay connected with us, we are on Instagram. That's at Star Wars Guys Pod. We post some stuff, some updates on there. We also post a lot of stuff. Most of our stuff now has kind of transferred over to YouTube. So we've got our live stuff. We got some shorts, some videos. We even post some community posts here on our YouTube channel. Sometimes it's just memes. Sometimes it's updates. It's just a lot of fun
Nate's
stuff.
been in charge of all that.
Yeah,
a
yeah,
lot of that stuff.
And if you
He's done a
guys
great
do,
job.
if you guys do like to keep up with the Star Wars stuff, my personal Twitter is Nate Mess on Twitter. I'm always posting, threads and stuff after episodes. So like my quick reactions, quick thoughts,
That's right.
different things like that on Twitter. So yeah,
And let us know, as always, in the comments how you liked the episode, things you wish
Yeah,
we would
your
have spent more
favorite
time on,
moments,
favorite moments, even how you liked our podcast episode in general. We're always looking
Yes.
for feedback. Do you
Yep.
like a little bit of the shorter format, going about an hour, a little bit shorter tonight,
Yeah.
or a little bit of the longer format? Let us know, because we're
Yeah.
always trying to just refine the
Yeah.
podcast, make it what everyone
Right.
wants to hear.
yeah. And going off that, I know a lot of people listen. We do have an audience that listens. Strictly to the audio stuff, because
Yeah.
it's mobile. You can take that stuff with
You can
you.
do it while you're
listen in the
driving.
car. So if you're part of that crowd who is listening to the audio stuff, we would love if you dropped a review for us. Whether it's on Spotify, Apple, wherever you're listening to the podcast, drop a review. Let us know your take, your honest feedback. We would love it. We'd appreciate it. And I'm sure other people would appreciate that as well, so that they have an idea of what they're getting into with Star Wars guys.
Definitely. Yeah,
So-
it always helps.
Anyway, with that said, thanks for tuning in. We appreciate it. We'll catch you guys in the next one. And as always, may the Force be with you.
As long as they think I'm an irritant, they won't notice what I'm really doing. What are you doing?
What are you
What are
doing?
you really doing?
I just love it so much. Do it.
I just love.
We're going to get him in the Senate.
I love smile.
Smile.
That's one of my favorite quotes in an episode.
We can't trust
Smile.
him. I love it.
Smile. Cassian Ender.